So you guys, I am going to share some information up front, but my favorite approach is really conversational. So if anybody wants to jump in and offer anything or ask anything, please do. I'm just going to set a little context up front to get us started. And then at the end, I want to save some time so we can actually I can give you guys some tools to walk away with so you can practice engaging fear differently. Ultimately, where I want to hope to share this perspective with you is that I believe fear is our greatest teacher. Nothing has more information for us than our fear. And ultimately, we want to see it as our ally and teacher and not as something to conquer or overcome. And we'll get into that a little bit. Fear has been used by governments, religions, businesses to control people, and it's free. It's a pretty easy thing. And the reason why I start with that up front is because a lot of us have been surrounded by or almost swallowing fear-based thinking for so long, we don't even realize when that permeates and then takes over our own thinking. We need to start with a baseline of what is fear. Does anyone want to throw out an answer to that before I kind of chime in? What is fear?
For me, it's not knowing what to expect or the unknown.
Great.
For me, it's a prompt for my reactions in life or my actions.
For me, it's the absence of love whenever there's fear.
True.
I think fear is always something that you fill in the blanks, and when you don't know something, you tend to fill it in with fear.
That's right. So fear gets a really bad rap, and I think it's pretty misunderstood. So I'm going to pull a little neuroscience in today. Basically, we have a fear center in our brain. It's our amygdala, which is the home of fight, flight, and freeze. And there's a lesser well-known one, which is called fawn. Fawn is, it's when we appease a threat. So this is the home of people pleasing, if that sounds relevant to anybody, but we'll come back and revisit that. So we have this fear center in our brain to protect our survival. Rational fear is why we have it. So if you're swimming in an ocean and a shark is swimming towards you, it's that fear that causes you to swim towards the shark and punch it in the nose or swim away. The irrational fear are the fears that live in the future tense. What if? So maybe last night I'm thinking, what if nobody shows up tomorrow? What if I forget what I'm going to say? What if nobody cares what I'm going to say? All of these, it's all of the what if, the future tense stories that we're running. And sadly, because it behooves a lot of people that we don't understand our relationship with fear, we never learned to teach our brains to respond differently to rational fear and irrational fear. So oftentimes, most of us are reacting the same way to irrational fear as we are when our actual survival is being threatened. So irrational fear, if you think of somebody even said protection, and I love that, absolutely. And fear is doing just that. Fear is trying to protect us, ironically. But so from the rational perspective, that's your survival. From an irrational perspective, that's who you currently are. As soon as you grow and become a new version of yourself, fear has to learn who you are so it can protect you. And fear doesn't really like to do extra work. So ironically, fear is kind of showing us where we want to grow by telling us where not to go. And so even when we can bring a little bit of levity into it, it can be helpful. One other link that I want to plant here is that I believe fear and pain are very much in cahoots. And what I mean by that is I should give you guys a little bit of context first. So I didn't know I was going to set out and talk about fear and cover fear in my life. I had actually worked for a lot of companies. Where I had come from was I knew that I wanted to make an impact, do my part in the world, contribute. And so I was working for a lot of companies that had those big moonshot ideas. And I had to keep resigning because leadership wasn't in integrity. And I got really tired of resigning. And so I decided to reverse engineer the process and help leaders be in integrity. And I actually believed it was empathy that was missing. So I sat down to build a model on how you could teach empathy, because while it's innate for many people, I think it can be taught. And it was empathy that led me to fear. Kind of like fear is the absence of love. if you actually address the fear, empathy becomes a byproduct. And so that's what led me there. And that was about 10 years ago. And then I had a hypothesis about fear, and I just started talking to people about their fear. And then I got to learn all these beautiful patterns and themes and elements that so many of us share, because it's a really unexplored topic and a really beautiful one when we spend time with it. So let's go back to the fear and pain connection. While it's not 100% of the time, most commonly, the link between pain and fear starts pretty early for us. So let's say you're on a playground, and it could be a kid is on a playground and they end up getting teased. They might feel rejection. Someone might be sexually abused or physically abused. They might feel worthless. Or someone might feel left by a parent and they might feel abandoned. We might not even remember that experience. But what happens is it kind of gets frozen in time. And fear, as pain's best friend and fiercest protector, comes around and says, hey, I'm going to make sure you never feel like that ever again for the rest of your life. So let's go back to the case of the schoolyard. Maybe a bullied kid stops sharing their personality as brightly. Maybe the abused makes them smaller, or the abandoned starts doing anything and everything to prove that they're worth staying for. At the moment, these behaviors might be helpful to stop the bullying, hide from the abuser, or stay engaged in life. But because we don't have a conscious relationship with our irrational fears, we don't know when this protective force is no longer needed. So when we're aware of our irrational fears, we can actually be better equipped to see if our old patterns, our old stories are still relevant for who we are today.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think the problem is fear. I actually think we need to learn from our fear, because it's showing us either what we want to heal, what we want to grow, or what has shifted in our life. So it's almost the flashlight